Okay, so Dr. Dowling from St. Louis Barnes Jewish Hospital did the surgery. Well, he was the anesthesiologist doctor, and I forgot the name of the guy who did it. But anyway, they shaved his head completely. They put a frame, a square frame, drilled it into his head so his head would not move while he was awake during surgery. They cut him an incision here behind his neck on the right side, and they cut him on the left side of his chest. No, it's on the left side, sorry. It's all left side because it's going to fix his right hand, right dominant side tremors. So after they drilled and put the frame on, they inserted a very thin wire that has 4 probes at the end of it. And they fed that wire down to this incision behind his ear. And then from that incision, they fed a thicker wire. Somehow they put those wires together, and it goes down and it comes out through his chest where they cut the incision here. And that's where his little, I call it transmitter, I don't know if that's what it is. And then he has a remote control for that he can turn on and off. The thin wire has the 4 probes at the end of it, and the 4 probes were in case, like any other electric circuit that you have in your house or anything, if the one that they attach and start with, if that short circuits ever, they have 3 more that they can go to for backup. So he completely, while he was in surgery, while he was awake, they talked him through, so they knew exactly when and where, and they watched his hand constantly with the tremors. He went off his medication completely for 2 days before the surgery, so he had mega tremors. They watched his hand the entire time. They ran tests. They asked him questions. One of the tests that he remembers telling us, the doctor didn't tell us everything, but the doctor did tell us this one too, was they gave him a little baby food jar full of water with a lid on it, and they asked him to hold it as steady as he could. Well, before they even put the wire was through his brain, but before they started moving it around to find sensories, the doctor said the water was just shaking everywhere in the jar. By the time they found the spot that it needed to be, that water was still as glass in the jar when he was holding it. They said it was flat, there was no movement, and that's where they knew the wire, that's when they knew the sensory was right after that test. So they had him hold it as still as he could. And that's how they did the wire placement.
Sweet.
So, I don't know, I can't remember. That was just, so what'll happen is nothing is hooked up right now because nothing is turned on. He has staples. I think he has, I don't know how many. He had 5 right here. They never took this bandage off or this one. He goes back to the doctor on Monday in St. Louis. They're going to look at, I don't think they're going to remove the staples this early. I think it's too soon, but I think they're just going to check and make sure no infections have set in and ask him how he's feeling and do all that. Then he has to go back, I think, in another week from then, and then the staples will come out. And then from then, that day, when the staples come out, he has to wait 4 to 6 weeks until these all heal completely. They're closed up, healed, no infections, no nothing. Then he'll go back, so it'll be sometime in January. And he went home with the little remote that's going to control this thing. So he has to bring that. And then they'll turn it on. They'll program the little remote and they'll turn it on. And they said 2 days before he goes back to that appointment, he's to take no medication. Because from now till then, he still has to take the propanolol, I think it's called, for his tremors so that they're somewhat under control. So when he goes back on that day, 2 days before, he's not to take any. And once they get the wattage, or I think that's what they called it, wattage, to where it should be, and they'll figure that out from now till January, how much wattage he needs. The minute they turn that on, his tremoring hand will just go completely straight. There will be no more tremors. But the downfall is this is only his right side. They said now, he said people notice his tremoring so much more because it is his dominant side, and it's the hand that he uses, that he tries to handwrite with. It's the hand that he tries to eat with. The hand that he tries to comb his hair, you know, it's his dominant hand. So he's doing everything with that. So everyone notices this hand, but nobody notices this. They said once this is completely straight, you're going to notice this one. This one's going to start taking off. So he has the option to go back
and do it again?
And do it all over again for the left side.
Oh.
Yeah. The doctor said 50% of the people that he's done 1,000 cases of this. Pete was like almost his 1,000th case.
Of deep brain stimulation?
Yep, this particular doctor at Barnes. And he said that 50% of the people he's done have come back and done the left side. He said the other 50 are so happy and so overjoyed with just the fact that the dominant side was fixed, and that's what they do everything with, that they can deal with this.
Right.
So that some opt not to come back. Out of all the 1,000 surgeries, he's only had one short circuit that he had. When it short circuits, they have to take, no, when it short circuits, it's just a minor thing. So he's only had one short circuit where he's had to go to another probe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only had one infection. And if infection occurs, all the hardware has to come out and they have to redo everything. And the guy opted to do that because his tremors completely went away.
Wait, so if it short circuits, do they have to do surgery and go in and switch the probe, or is there a way to do it outside your body?
No, I think you have, but he said it's minor compared to, because they don't have to do any testing or anything. They can put him to sleep and just switch over to the next probe.
So once he's all healed and it's working and his tremors are stopping, does he have to go back ever, or is it just in him forever and he deals with it?
No,
like checkups or anything?
The problem is what they told him because of his case, and I wish I could think of what they call it. Something, I don't remember what they call it. But they said because this is not a cure for that. This is not a forever cure. That as he gets older, and they also think because his dad has Parkinson's disease, they also think that Pete might have the onset of Parkinson's disease, which would stink. But as he gets older, and because your brain, you know, just, he said that the tremors will probably eventually come back, but for at least for Pete's working career, which is another 15 to 20 years until he retires, his quality of life is going to be so much better.
Cool.
So, yeah. It was so interesting. I couldn't believe. I told Nikki I want to go to the appointment when they turn it on because I want to see. I've been through all of it the whole time.
Go.
I want to go and see his hand shake and then them hit where it should be, and he can go back. I think he does have to go back because they can change like if his tremors would start up, they can change the wattage. You know, they can turn up the transmitter.
So they can make it stronger.
So they can make it stronger because the doctor said the really good thing when they had him hooked up and the water went straight and flat was that he was almost at the lowest watt that you turn the transmitter on.
So
and it's because of his age.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, this battery that's in this transmitter wears out, and that battery can go out. So, like, he has to go back and have that redone.
Right. Okay. So most likely when he gets older, they'll have to turn the wattage up.
Right. As he gets older, so I'm sure he'll have to go back maybe once a year. If he's having issues, maybe he's going to call. Maybe it works that way. But, yeah, it was...
Thanks for doing some research.
Sure. It was just, I mean, the fact that we're home today and he had that done yesterday morning just absolutely freaks me out.
Yeah,
that they drilled his head, they put wires through his head, down his chest, and
he was
home.
Awake the whole time?
And he was awake for the whole thing.
Wait, so how do they make it so that he can't feel them drilling into his head? Is that just all anesthesia?
Lanacane. It's like a numbing thing.
Okay.
And they put that in the 4 spots where, because this frame that held his head straight for this whole thing, because of his tremors, otherwise his head would be shaking,
right.
you know. So they had to do that. that frame, wherever they put those screws first, they drew little marks on his head and they lanacaned it, and then they started the drill. And then as they drilled, they lanacaned in the drill holes too, I think he said.
Did he cry or anything?
No,
or freak
he just
out or
said,
panic?
he said it was awful. Like he said, thinking when you're at the dentist and the drill, you know, he said it's an awful sound and you know it's in your mouth. And he said this was just,
About
he said
3
it was
million times
freaky.
worse.
Yeah. So
Oh.
I mean, all I wanted to ask him the whole time was like, if this completely works, Pete, are you going to do the left side? You know,
Right.
but
But if it isn't his dominant side, then it probably
right,
will
it
be.
might not affect him. But if
Fine.
it's going to be that much more that he's going to notice it, and is it going to bother him that other people notice it? You know, so maybe he will. I mean, for the fact that it was all done in a 2-day thing, and it can be done, and that could go away again. You know, it's just going to be how much he want his quality of life if he really wants to deal with that. So, but yeah, it was pretty. The doctors were just amazing. They just sat down from us and they told us this whole thing before it was going to happen, how it was going to happen, what it was, you know. So it was pretty cool. And since I've been there since the beginning, you know, on the weekends and seen him go through all those awful spinal taps and the plasma thing that took his plasma out of his body and put new plasma back in, and it's just kind of cool to see how it all worked.
Sweet.
So, but just glad it wasn't me, because I'm telling you, as I think Nikki posted on Instagram that, I mean, he is to be able to make that decision that you're going to be awake and someone's going to drill into your brain, you know, drill into your head to get to your brain, to put a wire through, and he has to get a medical bracelet like Nicholas wears for his diabetes, and that says that he can never in his life ever go into an MRI machine again. He can have CAT scans, but he can't go into an MRI machine because it can just mess everything up, the wires. And he can't ever go through, like, at the airport, you know, metal detectors, and at the courthouse and stuff like that. So they have to get him one of those. But, so yeah, the end.
Thanks.
And you might